Lorraine Whitaker doesn't speak. Not because she can't, but because somewhere along the bloodline, language collapsed. Silence took its place. She sits like a statue in a crumbling house in Odd, West Virginia, a name too poetic for coincidence, staring through dirty glass like she's waiting for something that already happened 1,000 times. You think you've seen disturbing? No, what you've seen are shadows. This is something else, something ancient, inbred into the bones of a forgotten family. They call her lineage the most inbred in American history, a word tossed around like tabloid venom, inbred. But what it really means is centuries of isolation, corruption, and control, the breeding of obedience. Generations molded by invisible hands. Most people think inbreeding is about genes gone wrong, but it's more than that. It's about locking minds in loops, repeating trauma, repeating silence, repeating patterns. The Whitakers didn't end up this way by accident. The hills of Appalachia have stories, ones the map doesn't show. Families tucked into valleys not to survive, but to be forgotten, out of reach, off record, controlled. You think Lorraine was born into a tragedy? No, she was bred for it. Her family tree doesn't branch, it coils. And at the center is not madness, but method. They say Lorraine has a son, no birth certificate, no record, just whispers. She doesn't talk, but the house does. The floorboards creak with secrets. Her eyes don't blink often, but when they do, they speak of something learned, something watched. And this is just the first veil. You were told to look away, to laugh it off. Just some hillbillies. But what if I told you this wasn't a joke? What if I told you that Lorraine is not an exception, but a prototype? Because the real horror isn't what she became. It's who made her, beat, and why they might be doing it again. On a much, much larger scale. Low whisper again. She's what happens when control becomes blood. You ever wonder why certain places are carved out of memory? Why the world forgets towns like Odd, West Virginia? It's not an accident. It's design. Lorraine Whitaker's story isn't just a tragic footnote in backwoods horror. It's a mirror, reflecting a mechanism, used over and over again by powers that never sign their names. What happened in those hills wasn't isolation. It was containment. Families like the Whitakers weren't abandoned by society. They were extracted from it, pulled away and sealed in generational cages. Why? Because when you want to experiment on the human mind, you don't do it in laboratories. You do it where no one will ever look. Appalachia, cold, hidden, perfect. What if I told you that Lorraine's condition, her stillness, her detachment, her absence of language, is a symptom of something far older than her? The result of ritualized mind collapse, passed down like bone structure. This isn't just inbreeding. This is induced psychogenic programming, an engineered state of silence, a mind turned inward until it forgets how to scream. This family was broken in ways that make most psychological reports look like bedtime stories. Overlapping trauma, environmental decay, sensory deprivation. Imagine a child raised without language. Only tone, no comfort. Only rhythm. Not told what the world is, only what it's not. Lorraine became a vessel. Her ancestors were the blueprint. But the architects? You'll never see them. They don't wear robes. They wear lab coats, government IDs, corporate grant money. Hidden history is a science, and this family was a control group. And when footage of Lorraine went viral, when millions saw her face frozen like a glitch in time, what happened? The world watched and scrolled on, because that's the next phase of control, desensitization. Show the truth, wrap it in entertainment, then bury it under a meme. But let me be clear, if you're still watching this, it's because something in you refuses to look away. You're starting to remember the patterns. You're starting to recognize that the Whitakers are not distant. They're next. They are the origin story of an entire system designed to fracture identity. And now you're waking up. Drop this in the comments to lock in that awakening. Silence is inherited. Awareness is earned. Write it twice. Lock it in. You've stepped into something ancient, and the descent has only begun. Let's go deeper, beyond the house, beyond the hills, into the machinery that made Lorraine Whitaker. Because what we're dealing with isn't just one family. It's an archetype. Governments, secret research agencies, and black-budget institutions have long known a dangerous truth. If you break a mind early enough, it never learns to rebel. And Lorraine's family, spanning generations of decay, silence, and regression, is what happens when that strategy is applied with precision. You think MKUltra was the only mind control experiment? That it ended in the 70s? No, that was just the test balloon. The real work went underground, into places like West Virginia, Kentucky. The Ozarks, where old families were turned into long-term data points. Not to control them, but to study them. Understand how trauma crystallizes in the nervous system, how identity collapses when language is stripped, how the soul fragments when no one ever mirrors it back. And in that brokenness, they found something useful. They discovered that when identity is erased, the human becomes programmable. Not with wires and chips, but with rhythm, sound, routine, and silence. Lorraine doesn't speak because speech was never given to her. Not genetically, socially, intentionally. And here's where it gets darker. The watchers, the they, behind all of this, aren't just interested in isolated minds. They're interested in scaling. Because once they learned how to break a person like Lorraine, they realized they could start doing it en masse, with screens, with algorithms, with cultural engineering. Look around. What do you see? A generation addicted to silence between dopamine hits. A world of half-formed thoughts, broken language, flattened emotion. It's not coincidence. It's pattern replication. They're turning millions of us into digital Whitakers. Mute, disengaged, obedient. And we're too distracted to notice. Lorraine is the warning. Her stillness is not just sorrow, it's prophecy. You think this is about one woman in the woods? No, it's about the death of identity. And if you're starting to feel something, an itch in your mind, a pressure behind your eyes, that's not fear. That's memory trying to return. Because deep down, you know something was taken from you too. The only question is, will you stay in the house, or will you break the chain? Let me show you something they never wanted you to understand. In societies of power and the real ones, not the governments you vote for, there's always a blueprint for control. Not through war, not through laws, through ritualized fragmentation. You dismantle the soul, fracture the family, isolate the child, and then you rebuild the human into something obedient. The Whitakers? They're not a glitch in the system. They're a design element. Lorraine's world was shaped by this ritual, repeated generational collapse. Her ancestors were mined for patterns, stripped of autonomy, observed like lab animals. But what no one talks about is what's left behind. What grows in the soil of suffering when no one's looking. There are reports, unconfirmed, untraceable, but persistent, of unusual events in those woods. Unexplainable sounds, sightings, behavioral glitches in those who stay too long. Some say it's inbreeding, but some researchers believe it's residual energy, trauma looping in the very environment, echoing through time. Lorraine isn't just traumatized. She's haunted by memory, by programming, by the void left when identity is shattered and never put back. You see, when a mind is erased, what replaces it isn't peace, it's patterned obedience, routine without awareness, movement without meaning. And now, zoom out. What are we becoming? Scroll, consume, forget, repeat. We're entering the same loop, by design. The system doesn't need to chain you up. It just needs you distracted, addicted, and spiritually deaf. The difference between us and Lorraine is shrinking, rapidly. She's the silent echo. We are the loud blind. And this is the moment of recognition. Because once you see the pattern, it breaks. But if you look away now, it tightens. Forever. Let me say it straight. They aren't experimenting anymore. They're implementing. Lorraine was just the alpha version. You are the beta, unless you awaken. And awakening always begins with pain. The pain of looking directly at what they made you forget. Keep going. You've already stepped too far in to stop now.